Hey everybody, welcome back to the Mad Liberty Party.
Are you really going to leave me?
Would you shut the fuck up? I'm trying to do the intro, goddammit. Fuck Tommy. This is the Mad Liberty Party. Everything that is up is down. Everything that is left is right. And the rules don't matter because we don't know what the hell we're doing anymore. Thank you guys for being patient and being here to hang out with us on another episode of Stirring the Redacted. We're going to have some interesting conversation tonight about the Redacted Revolution and a bunch of other cool shit. And I have Tommy, and Tommy just tore into, like, he's inflating. Oh, God.
Oh, you inflated. Oh, I inflated again.
Yes.
I'll inflate again when I come back on.
We have Tommy and we have Laidee here to talk about it with us. Well, I say us. I'm here with me. And man, we are so disheveled tonight. I'm sorry. Nobody's perfect, especially me. Jesus Christ.
This is why we haven't overthrown the government yet.
This is why we can't get Bezos funding. We can't even get through one fucking, like, business meeting or anything. Like, can you imagine a business Zoom with us? Well, like, that'd be crazy. Because I guarantee you during a business meeting, I would get way more toasty than I do in here.
Business meeting? Oh, God. So where do we start from here?
How about we start with, what the fuck is this, and where did it start?
So I was born October 25th, 1994. And it's just been a shit show ever since then. Why did I just dox myself? I don't know. I'm just trying to be funny. I'm not being funny right now. So this entire Redacted Revolution concept started kind of impetus of last year. As we watched so much divisiveness happen, in not just the usual duopoly, not just the usual political bullshit, but within the community, air quotes, right? The free folk, as you like to call them, or quote unquote libertarians or anarchists or boogaloo or whatever. There's a massive amount of divisiveness within the community, and it was like, how do we try and at least bring all of this together, come underneath some sort of understanding and umbrella to work forward, because we're not going to do anything productive underneath these constant councils and infighting and fed under the bed and getting caught in one stupid Twitter feud after another. Twitter. Mike Bobby's favorite thing ever is Twitter. This constant back and forth, and I wanted to have a clear direction going forward, a clear set. Not, I always feel authoritarian saying that. We were all on the same page, but at least having a group of people. It
just happened that way.
A group of people.
The page is very broad.
Yeah, a group of people organically brought together to try and have some sort of direction in all of this, instead of just memes and shit posting and bullshit theory talk screaming at each other into the void. That's just going to go on ad nauseum, right? We got through the election, we got through the protests, we got through the inauguration. What are we going to do to move forward from here? And that was really the impetus for all of this. It's been something, kind of a concept I've been working on, bouncing around in my stupid little head for months now. And it's really, we're trying to take a step forward with it, if that's the best. It's not a good elevator pitch, but
it's a terrible elevator pitch. Jesus,
yeah, it is. I'm not good at elevator pitches. I talk too much. Tell me what you think your concept of it is, Mike, because you've been with me for the entirety of it.
Oh, I have to think about that. I don't want to get all like Minecrafty and shit over here, so hold on. I mean,
With-
like,
Without getting Minecraft.
yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I've been waiting for groups like this to form basically my whole fucking life. Um, it's like, so, I don't know, like, sowing the word, I don't, fucking Jesus. Like, okay, I'm gonna talk about freedom cells. I don't know. Which one should I start? I, it means a lot of shit, dude.
Yeah, so
That's why
should
it's
I
so
start
fucking
with the
hard. Like,
should I
because to
start with the
me,
stupid
the redacted revolution itself is like amazing. Like it's exactly what we need.
it's it
Um,
it's kind of everything that we've been talking about. Let me read the thingamabobber I wrote up. And for those
but
of you that have heard it,
yeah, like it's a
probably everybody, I'm
culmination
sorry.
of literally everything we've been talking about for fucking months. And
Mhm.
it's not like the answer. Obviously, it's an answer, and we need
No.
lots of them.
Yeah, we need all the answers we can get. And this is about being one of the answers and also working with and linking to all of the other answers that we can possibly have. You brought up freedom cells. There's the redacted caucus is getting going. Working with the LP is also partially an answer or a tool. You know, it's about we have all of these tools at our disposal, but we're not really using them right now, if we're being frank, right?
Yeah.
And we need at least a spot to come together and how be a spot where we start to answer these questions and start to use these tools and start to quote unquote build this house because we have a lot of people, a lot of us have a hard time not just being the hammer. You know, we need the plumber, we need the electrician, we need all of these parts of building this house, right? And I guess more than anything, the best summation I can give in short answer is that a lot of the problems with society is that there's no community within them, right? If we're out there trying to basically fight society, fight the state, all this, at the very least, we need to have our own community to do that with, right? The community that's been, I mean, the idea of community has been completely um, robbed from society at large. And it's hard to start fighting that when that's one of the crux issues of all of this when we don't have a community. We have a bunch of little echo chambers and a bunch of little, you know, squirrel chats, places where, you know, people, and that's great, you know, if people are actually doing stuff, but where is the umbrella to at least kind of bring all of these ideas and actions together? Let me read the thingamabobber real quick here. This is the redacted revolution. When they told us we were redacted, we were told we no longer had the right to exist as individuals. This is fascism. We must fight this, returning the same exact judgment to them. We must deny the authority of the state and its right to exist. We cannot fight each other in this pursuit. This is a revolution, not of individuals against each other, but a revolution of us together against the elite. This is the redacted revolution. I feel like that sums it up pretty well.
I really like
I
that
got you there.
thing. Hold on. We may
Yeah.
be having some technical difficulties. I'm trying to fucking check real quick.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Y'all give me 1 second. There we go. I think I fixed it. I hope we're still alive. Is this working?
It says we're still live.
Okay, good. All right. Sorry about that, y'all. I have no idea if it kept going or not. Did it keep going? Could y'all hear us? Okay, good. I see that they said that they could hear everybody. Like,
Gotcha.
do we need to? Can you guys see us?
Yeah, I think it says that it's live, so
I hope so. I'm sorry. We're getting really. I didn't want it to miss anything, so. Um. Honestly, like, I think that, like, every fucking group out there has its own, like, purpose and shit like that, and it all comes together to build the fucking house. But, like, to
yeah.
me, this feels more like, I guess, kind of like some of the pipe work. Um,
Yeah.
at first, when I first, like, came to the idea of this and we were first talking about it, I was thinking about networking and trying to, like, like push Agora stronger and decentralize and shit like that. And that was what like I started on with my first
Yeah.
foot into this idea. And it just became so much more. It still is those things,
Hmm.
but it just, I think it just like builds on itself because like once you can, I think for me, this whole thing is about like making it possible to deny the state.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a defiance element that's important, right? It does ever so much, but we are at that point where we need to outright deny the state. And like there's all of these political things that are brought up, rent strikes, tax strikes, working in agora, decentralized markets, barter and trade outs, uh, um, helping one create an economy outside of the state. But there's also and this is going to sound poofy, but there's the denial of the state of existing outside of being able to exist outside of the norm and function, right? That's such a taboo thing. You have to exist with all of your distractions and your banalities, and you always have to. What's the next big greatest thing? It's very Fight Clubby, I guess is a good way to put it. Um, Existing as a group of people who don't need the next IKEA furniture, who don't need the next, who aren't getting up and watching the Grammys, who don't who desire to seek to live outside of all of this bullshit, which to me entirely encapsulates the state. It's not just anti-governmental as it's anti-societal, really, in a sense. Uh, I think that was the next step a lot of us were missing is,
Yeah.
look, we fucking hate the government. We hate the corporative aspect, but we also like, how often do we talk about the suicides that happen in this country, the opioid epidemic, suicide epidemic, and these things get oftentimes brought up as a a slightly adjacent matter to things like COVID and mental health. But they don't. They're not a predominant discussion. Oftentimes, we've seen within the Boogaloo in the last year is that it's a lot more than just guns and memes about our daydreams, what we would do with said guns in Minecraft, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot more than that. And that's where you get into the building a community, having people basically building the community that was robbed from the society that made us. And to
Yeah.
me, that's the crux of why we hate the society in the first place. There is no community. There's nothing that brings us together. Even on a yuppie level, there's no more MASH or Cheers. There's no more Nirvana or the Beatles, even though those were oftentimes, big corporistic things in themselves. We don't even have those anymore. We're all in our own little echo chambers, our own little cytoplasms, where we're just screaming at each other all the time, right? And what if we actually started to have that community? So that leads into what it first started off was the networking, like you're talking about, and then obviously became a lot more than that as it was going along, as it was building, and as we were talking about building it up, and goals and ideas came that are at the end of the day purely about denying and living outside of the state. And then I killed Mike Bobby.
Yeah, I'm gonna die for some dank ass shit before we ever get a chance. Well, to me, like MLTP always wanted, like we always wanted to, even at the very beginning, we wanted to encourage like our team to branch out and build their own networks and their own little freedom cells where they were and shit like that. And it's been a really wobbly start. Like, also, it took me a long time to find people that I was willing to even do that with. Because, like, I met a bazillion cool people, and out of all of them, there was, like, maybe, I think there was 2 for a little while, and then I was like, oh, I'm glad I didn't do that, and it went down to 1. And only more recently have I, like, actually gotten close enough to enough people that I would actually fucking freedom cell with. And if you don't know what freedom cell is, it's not like fucking creepy or scary or weird insurgent crap. It's just go to freedomcell.org and check it out, because like there's a lot to it, but they're actually pretty cool. But like the basic of it is like building small tiny communities and pods of people that can help each other live freer from the state. And then they network with all the other ones. There's a lot more to it than that, but I hope that anybody who's watching this would be able to like imagine how that could be built upon.
Do you have the graphic for it, Mike Bobby?
Shit, I didn't fucking save it on. I just like copied it to you again because like I see it all the time. I need to make us one that's more specific to our. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Like, or maybe like I'll actually talk about freedom cells and what I think about them and what they are and shit like that on one of these daytime episodes here coming up too. Just to clarify a little bit, because we could spend all night talking about what a freedom cell is and what its benefits are and shit like that. And I don't want to derail. But like, I also wanted to ask Laidee. I was like, you know, me and Tommy talked about what the fuck this shit is to us. Like, do you have any comments on this crap? Or are you just gonna watch us sit here and like overshare?
I mean, it's fun. Well, I mean, mostly the same thing to you guys. I mean, I'm just trying to be as non-compliant as possible. Even if you don't use the LP as a vehicle to take over local positions that are available, I don't think a lot of people realize that, of course, like on a national level, it takes money to get elected, but it doesn't really cost you that much to run for constable or for sheriff or for one of your local open seats. And a lot of times it's some like 90-year-old person that's been there for like 100 years. So, and then just like, you know, trying to be more active, even at events that we wouldn't normally go to try to talk to people and get the word out, because the more that you are on the ground, the more easier it is for people to start building relationships. So the networking is very important. But yeah, it was never meant to be online chat rooms full of memes. I know that's fun and we all do that, but that's not what the movement is.
Oh yeah, I mean, meme warfare definitely has its place and it has a powerful fucking effect, but it's got to be more than that.
Yeah, it's got to be way more than that.
So I have peanut butter no bake cookies. I've been looking forward to these all day.
What if someone's watching and they're allergic to peanuts and they can't have peanuts and then they fucking tattle on us and we get canceled?
Oh, I've been canceled a lot already. It's all good.
This is all Tommy's fault if we're gone tomorrow because of peanuts.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I mean, like,
that adds up.
Well, I mean, like, I'm pretty sure we've been redacted for worse.
Yeah, right. Well, in conjunction with what Laidee said, I mean, that's entirely it, right? Like, even when it comes to the memes, there's not a... Memes are great, but that's a very... At some point, it's still in that cytoplasm. Like, there is an entire idea to counter propaganda, right? There's an entire idea to work that can be done towards the indoctrination of the state that memes only go so far in doing, right?
Yes.
And there's this entire, I guess it falls under the branch of what they like to say mimetic warfare really is. But memes as we know them often aren't. to that entirely new level. And maybe I'm just gonna start sounding like I'm reading too much Joseph Goebbels, but how do you pronounce his name anyways? Goebbels?
I think it's Goebbels, but like I don't know for sure. I always feel like
I'm
saying it wrong, so
we probably shouldn't be sitting here on a fucking anarchist libertarian podcast discussing how to pronounce a Nazi Third Reich leader's name. But anyway.
Look, you gotta be able to fucking cuss them properly.
But like it or not, the dude did a lot of great work on propaganda, as fucked up as he was. And there is a whole way that we can, I guess, propagandize this movement without just shitting in memes and just shit posting all these memes in all these circles where it's the same people that are hearing us over and over and over and over and over again. I mean, that ended up being kind of what the death of Facebook is. It's because, like, even if you're still on Facebook, you're not going to stick around. Like, I still have somehow my personal and my public moniker, quote unquote, as douchey as that sounds.
That's fucking sus.
I know, right? I'm clearly fed. I'm actually filming this from Quantico right now.
I knew it. We're all fucked.
Yeah, I don't think they make you no-bake cookies in Quantico, but anyway, so what we learned in Facebook and through big tech in general is that if you have a personal account that's reaching like actual people in your actual life, it was always interesting to see how much quicker that got shut down, right? Like I'll post the same meme or same any point, like when J17 happened. The Tommy moniker one was totally fine. Nothing was said about it for me posting those J17 memes. Posted it on my main account within 3 minutes, 60-day ban. And it's very telling. And what it shows is that they're totally fine if we sit in these echo chambers yelling at each other, telling each other you're not a real libertarian.
You're not a real anarchist.
Yeah, what scares them is when we get outside of those echo chambers. And obviously, like, it's tough because how many of us still have, like, normie friends and shit? But
I don't fucking know about that anymore.
It's very proselytizing, really. It's almost like our own missionary work, too. That's part of all this redacted revolution shit is, like, are you able to reach out to people in your daily life? Like, are you able to play any part in the radicalization of anybody? And I'm not saying like you just, you don't walk and sit down in the IHOP and start screaming, fuck the state, but you play small parts because we live in it's all talked about, right? You don't go anywhere and somebody's not talking about it. It's just, it's so out there. It's so on everybody's tongue. The 2020 election was so divisive after the 2016 one was. Like, there's no such a thing really anymore as you don't discuss politics. It just always comes up. It's just inevitable in almost every circle you're in, right? So when that comes up, like, play your part in discussing, well, why don't I try, if somebody's like, well, I want socialized healthcare. Well, explain why maybe I don't trust socialized healthcare to the same people that have a police state, the same people that are bombing brown people. And while to many people that are still stuck in that statist realm, that seems confusing when you can boil it down to those terms, it's often surprising the results that you get. It's extremely gratifying. Like, bring up the IHOP example because I remember it was right before, right after the VP debates, is middle end of October, and I just sat down and this gal she just immediately started railing on taxes, just immediately. I like completely doesn't know who the fuck I am, or what I believe, and just made some comment about taxes and how stupid they were, and then started talking about the checks. I'm like, well, this is a good time to start talking about these things. So I brought up, like, well, yeah, if you hate taxes, she hated taxes. She had this very, conservative mindset. Well, if you hate taxes, they're funding the border, aren't they? If you hate taxes, they're funding the quote unquote war on terror. You can always connect all of these parts in. They will always connect to somebody, and it works both with both sides on the right or the left. You can always, if they have that issue, at the end of the day, you can connect it to one thing, and which connects it to another, which connects it to another. Sooner or later, you can always get down to that. Fuck the government, fuck the state. It's always that logical conclusion there. I mean, that's basically the crux of what red pilling is, right? If you look at it, you're looking at the physical overlay of what red pilling someone is. And Mike, you said it on the show multiple times, is you got to be slow. You can't do it overnight. Yada yada yada. You have to judge people for where they're at in that level of indoctrination of indoctrination.
You want to be that state. Giant whose strength is greater than those who just like wants to hug the bunnies and always like makes their eyeballs pop out.
Mm-hmm. I mean, sorry, these cookies are
they
too
are
good.
rabbits though. If you scare them too hard, they have a fucking heart attack and just fucking roll back.
Yeah.
But I mean, like this thing really like started as all these culmination of all these different fucking ideas and stuff like that. But like it didn't just stay ideas. Like
yeah. Yeah, so the first, I guess,
get some
a lot of it are still
out there.
Yeah, a lot of it are still ideas, per se, right? Like nothing's completely actualized. The first thing we're working on is we got together a newsletter. If we're talking about community and bringing people together and talking about these things and talking about how we can move forward. First thing I thought of was like, well, why don't we do some sort of newsletter? Now, it was supposed to go out on Friday. I kind of shit the bed on that because of what Friday and Saturday were. And it doesn't help. My personal life's a fucking dumpster fire. Like, so hopefully Monday or Tuesday, I'll get that finished up and compiled and posted out there. The first issue of the quote unquote redacted revolution newsletter, if you will, was what is it that brought you personally into the movement? We just asked everybody that question, and they put in their own piece. And we're just going to write it up and put it out there and give, because it's interesting how everybody's story is just a little bit different on how they ended up here. It's just a little bit different, and don't die there. Please don't die. It's a really fascinating element. I think it would be cool for us to get a base of how the fuck did we all end up here? And there's similarities, of course, but that's a way we can also that's figuring out how to talk to other people. Because when you talk to people, how are they going to end up there themselves? Well, if this is how we ended up there, then maybe these are the ways that they'll end up there. And everybody's a little bit different, and learning how different people around us can end up there. But at the end of the day, it brought us together. Or works to bring us together. So hopefully that'll be out Monday or Tuesday. I still need a bit from you, Mike Bobby. I know you've been dead all week, but
yeah, I gotta sit down and fucking do that. I keep meaning to and stuff like that, but yeah, there's just been so much crap going on, and I've been moving some shit around and stuff. So it is what it is. We'll get it there real as soon as we can.
Yeah.
I am looking forward to it and shit, though. It is a little bit nerve-wracking because I'm like, well, how far am I supposed to go back in this? Like, why do I?
Yeah, that's a tough part. Well, so I'm on it. The idea for the second one, after we drop the first one, is going to be, okay, so this is what got you into the movement. What is it that you want to do to move forward personally in the movement? What do you see? What ideas do you have? What would you like to see done? What do you think we could do? Do the same thing, compile everybody's response and kind of just issue it out from there. I mean, long term, having a newsletter publication that talks about subjects, talks about current events, talks about historical relevancies. We have all these people with all these specifications and specialties, but we often don't use them. We're just a fucking brick tossing it lefty through a glass window and often missing. And this is, at least this would be a start in using these special, one guy has a specialty in comms, another guy, if you're a crypto, if you know crypto well, if you know the stonk situation well, if you know all these various, uh, 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 um, you know, have you homesteaded? Are you willing to write about your experiences homesteading, how that worked? Or even more specific than that, how it worked if you've gone solar energy, these things that bring us independent. Because it's, when we think about preparation, especially on the prepping side of it, the first thing a lot of people think of are guns and ammo. They're not thinking about shelter. How are you going to get water? How are you going to survive? Um, and the same thing goes with like literally fighting the government. Is it's not first thing they think of are my Claymore Roomba beats up the alphabet boy. I'm like, how are you going to fight how are you going to fight the government when you don't have an extra pair of socks?
Yeah, when you can't fucking get the food that you need, when you can't, like we need to have localizing. Like that's one of the reasons why I'm so fucking hardcore on the freedom cells as a start. Like we need to hyper localize and start making these.
Yeah, and especially
tiny
a lot
communities, and they're not huge. It's a good place to start. You need 4 to 8 other people, roughly, and if you get enough, then split into 2 and work with each other and shit like that, and just network. And I mean, I think that.
And by the way, I sent you the I sent you the graphic for the freedom. I sent you the graphic for the freedom cells if you wanted to pop it up.
Where the fuck did you send it to me at?
On Signal.
There it is.
So the Freedom Cells website, they've already got the infrastructure up. They've got a whole Telegram database directory set up where you can jump in and network with these people.
Oh yeah.
And it's been interesting jumping. They have all sorts of freedom fests we could go to. You can meet people because there's a lot more outside of our little sphere than I think we often realize. A lot more people wanting to do a lot more things. And we get so caught up in our echo chambers that we don't see them wanting to do these really cool things. Like there's a lot, even, I mean, I'm an anarchist. You'll never see me vote, but there's a lot that we could use we use in tandem with the LP. A lot of resources, a lot of connections there where they're going the same direction. The train is headed in the same direction. We're just oftentimes not using that momentum, right?
Yeah.
It's a huge problem within all this, I think. I think it would be cool to see that. And so, probably not. You're more well informed on what the Redacted Caucus is, Mike Bobby. Do you want to maybe talk about that a little bit?
Hold on. I just got the thing opened.
Okay. Yeah, so hold on.
Is that too small?
So that's probably. I don't know if you can overlay it for the entire screen.
Oh yeah, let me do that. That might work better. We're gonna go back to where we were for a second, y'all. Just give me 1 second. There we go. I'm gonna close that. I'm still learning this shit, okay? Hopefully this will work out. There we go. Ah! It's big.
There we go.
It's ugly, but it's big.
That's what she said.
Lol. So, it wouldn't necessarily be laid out particularly like this, but, the different pods would mean, the different pods could, specialize in different things and stuff, and be able to network back and forth with each other.
Yeah, and we're working on something like this that could be applied directly towards the Boog or the Redacted or whatever, the Redacted Revolution. Basically have its own framework, and simultaneously you can use the Freedom Cells network to do that because they already have the infrastructure there, which is awesome.
Oh yeah, it is, and I don't think that any of them would have a freaking problem with it. It just makes the network stronger.
Yeah, no. If anything, you're bringing more people into the fold. Right.
Definitely.
And you have an area that works on the newsletter. You have an area that works on counter propaganda. Like, hey, motherfuckers, let's be busting out posters. You have an area that's working on the protests or rallies or whatever, right? Getting the message out there.
Yeah.
You have an area. If we could have, now a lot of this obviously comes down to funding, but we're working on that. An area that works on community outreach, an area that works on drives, so a coat drive, or what have you. Soup
I
kitchen.
mean,
You
it
have
doesn't even have to be that specific. It just
no,
whatever works for your area. We're gonna have to come up with a few
yeah,
different models to like give people an
yeah,
idea that it can be a wider spread or a thinner or a more specific spread depending on the area. Because like there's some places where you're just gonna have too many people for one
yeah.
already.
Well, and it's just it's about this using people's specializations instead of just all of us constantly being a blunt hammer for things, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think oftentimes we don't give ourselves enough credit to do what we're good at, and I think need to give ourselves more credit for doing what we're good at, and stop trying to
Um.
do everything if we're not good at it.
Yeah, because like they were saying here, the problem is you have to be an expert in everything. You don't in this situation. In
No.
this situation, somebody else might be an expert in something, and you might be an expert in these things or whatever, and y'all would be networking with other experts and shit like that. Like everybody has a niche though. Like even if
Hmm.
your niche is like I grow and can fruit and vegetables or something. Like everything can be utilized.
Yeah.
Like I'm a
It's about,
hunter, I'm a fucking tailor, all these different shit, all this different shit.
building the community, outside of, the normal
Society.
parameters of where they'd want it at. Yeah.
I mean,
Community,
it's
yeah, entirely out
literally
of
take.
society. We have this idea. Yeah. There's this idea that, everybody wants to leave society and do all this stuff and be completely out of it, whether it be going and starting a compound somewhere, going off the grid and homesteading by themselves. It's entirely possible to create this community
Right where
just
you
in your
are.
day-to-day life. Yeah,
Yeah.
right where the fuck you are.
And
Nobody's,
some people, I mean, some people, that's what they fucking want. Like, they want to stay in the city and they want to be in the middle of everything, but still doing this. And, like, it's very possible.
oh yeah, yeah, entirely so. So I guess a lot of ideas we've had, right? A lot of things we
Yeah.
want to do.
And I mean,
Um,
people draw together around these ideas and stuff. It's not just
mhm.
three people sitting in a room. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's the hope, right? So you have that. You have the hopefully like a crypto mining pool is one thing we talked about because one of the big issues we've had in this movement is being able to fund various things, right? Fund a lot of the rallies and activism we want to do. Fund being able to help each other live either off the grid or out of the system. And something we usually struggle in doing is we're a bunch of pores basically, right? Well, how do we make the movement self-sufficient in of itself? How do we make it able to basically feed itself? The first idea that
Yeah.
comes to mind is a crypto mining pool. And you might be better at explaining what that would basically be, Mike.
Well, I mean, it'd be like different. I wouldn't go into too much detail, but like basically it'd be like multiple people putting in on a project and building crypto miners and running them in
Well,
places
no,
where
I
it would be
mean
more
I
efficient
mean
and
more
shit
like
like that. What do you
explaining
mean?
explaining what crypto mining
Well,
actually is.
I mean, it's literally, what do you mean, like, what it is? Like, how detailed do you want me to fucking get? This isn't really a tech show. Like,
Uh,
most of these
uh,
people don't know that stuff either.
for
Like,
the for the I mean, you're just better at explaining it for the poor.
We'd be using processors and computers and shit like that to mine cryptocurrency that we could then use on the gray and black markets. And I mean, we could use them to interact with the white markets too if we had to, but it's gross. I also think that we really need to work on making our own payment processors and sharing those, because like the more people who are using them, the better off everybody is. Places that, and like just becoming very self-sustaining even on a digital level. I think we should even take it beyond that, like to like P2P style network internet, making our own layers of the internet and shit like that. But that's a little grand and a little bit down the road. But I mean, like, we have to. That's what we have to do. We have to replace everything. Everything that we need that comes from the government, that comes from society. We have to be able to make sure that not only we have what we need, but our brothers and sisters have what they need, and that the rest of the liberty, and know that the rest of the liberty community, be they left, right, upside down, or completely out in fucking Neverland, Neverland or Wonderland, you know, that these people are all trying to do the same things. So we need to like hook up with these different groups, these different cells of liberty that are out there, even though we may not agree with how we should run our fucking community when it's over. It's none of our business how they run how the other groups run their communities after this, as long as they're not fucking like children or something.
A lot of people talk about like, well, you know, they have, this is the time to start talking about and start being able to build your community how you want it, you know, whether you're ANCOM, ANCAP, or anything in between. Like, do you want to build this community like like anarcho-communism and SOC, or do you want to just go straight ANCAP? Now is the time where you can start actually doing that. And I think a lot of people often get overwhelmed by that fact that it is, you're already starting basically what happens when everything is quote unquote overthrown or collapses or whatever. You're already starting to do that. You're already those motions are already in place if you're doing a lot of these things. And it's not just replacing the physical aspect of what, you know, the community. It's replacing also the quote unquote emotional, psychological end of that community, or of the, or you know, like when I said, I wrote something months ago. Basically, this is the redacted movement, and it was all sorts of things. This redacted movement is preparation. It's you know, it's obviously preparation and homesteading and knowledge and all this stuff, but it's a lot more than that. It's self-actualization. It's it's mental health. It's learning how to function and be some yeah. It's learning how to function in a community, not just in a physical sense, but also in a mental sense, right? Being mentally strong and being able to deal with a lot of these things that are fucking difficult. Being able to talk about those things that are so overwhelming and so overpowering, often debilitating, you know. Pick me up from here. I'm kind of losing steam, but
I mean, no, like, I thought you were doing good. Laidee, you got any opinions over there? I feel like I have to drag them out of you.
So I'll start by saying that although I do think that the LP is a good vehicle for us to use, I also urge everybody to be very cautious, because something that I'm seeing happening a lot, especially in my own state, is that we're starting to have a lot of the LP members kind of pick up on the boog making waves. And so they see us, and a lot of people want to have this backhand deal with the boog, so that if that ends up making them look bad, the first thing they're going to do is throw us under the bus.
Oh yeah.
They don't want to be open about it. I wasn't prepared for that to be happening here, but it very much is.
Right.
And I do think that there are a lot of stuff that we need to be doing, but I think that most importantly, we are a group of individuals and nobody can be an expert in everything. But I also think that we are more benefited by having the knowledge that we do about what's actually going on and what the consequences of that might be. So for me, I get really frustrated because like you can't eat lead. You can have 25,000 rounds at your apartment. But what good does that do you if shit hits the fan and you have to leave? Are you going to carry that in a backpack? There's only so much everyone can do. And so I think that a lot of people need to be aware that there is no, I mean, freedom cells are great and all of this stuff, but I also feel like people need to be aware that you also have your own personal responsibility to find out what can you hunt, what can you gather, where can you go, how do you get clean water, how much can you carry, and for how long can you carry it. And I caution people when they talk about moving to certain places with certain groups of people that although it's good to have those things, I also think that we owe it to ourselves and the people that we want to help when the time comes that we need to be as knowledgeable in as many different things as possible. So it's
Yeah.
good to be the guy with the gun and to know how to shoot, but also like, can you cook and do you know how to get clean water?
Right. And I
I feel
mean,
like some people are starting to get better medically as far as that goes, but I don't really see that growth happening much more outside of that kind of thing.
yeah. And I mean, as far as the
No, I
LP
don't.
thing goes, I kind of expected this to happen. But I've been watching it from the inside more than long enough, and from the outside for even longer before that. But like, I kind of went into the LP with these like grand
Oh yeah. So what?
expectations, and um, anyways, I went into the LP with all these grand expectations and shit like that, and it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. They didn't practice the things that libertarians tend to believe in, and that they were hyper focused on a national level instead of like. And I watched them roll over time and time again, and like Corona was like my black pill. When I watched so many people in the LP in so many states and so many different groups just roll over and take that, um, like, I love Arkansas. Arkansas is beautiful, but they suggested that we just lay low and then come out when it was all over and talk about how this is what we've been talking about all along and shit, basically. And I could not fucking handle that shit. Like, that made me want to throw up.
Yeah.
And I just didn't know what to do about that at all. Like, that fucking wrecked me. Um, But I mean, like I know that Tommy brought up the whole redacted
I'm
caucus
back.
thing and shit like that, and was like, more about it than I do. I feel like I was about ready after J17. I was about ready to. I was already so many things had happened, and I had watched how they would talk versus what they would do, and um, and like this was probably coming because like a long time ago I began to a while back I began to understand and accept the fact that like democracy and voting was actually rather forceful, and I didn't fucking like it, and I didn't want to be a part of it, and I didn't want to encourage people to be a part of it. So like I knew that I was gonna eventually probably fall out of interest with the party, but like I was angry and I was about ready to walk away after J17. And
Yeah.
this redacted caucus thing had been like floating on the sidelines in my visuals for just a short while, and like it's still in its infancy right now. It's still coming
Yeah.
together, and it's looking pretty good. The whole idea is that those of us who redacted and lost our voices and are disappointed with the way that the LP has been, um this would be the place for you. If you're still interested in getting involved, the caucus could probably use you because, like, we want to change, we want to give it one last, well, for me, this is one last Hail Mary. Like, if this doesn't fucking do something, and then I'm fucking done at this point because I have no patience, and I'm at the point where I believe that in certain ways it's kind of controlled opposition.
Well, and it certainly is. There's also the aspect of being able to use resources that the LP has for what
well, yeah, that
considered
was
to
what
be
I was.
redacted
Yeah.
redacted projects or pursuits or ideals, right?
Well, not
Like
just
you
that,
could
but the
have,
platform too. Like, I'm
yeah,
pretty sure that
yeah,
that's what Dan does and what several other libertarians that actually try to do shit do. Like, they just use it for the platform and for the networking and for, the capacity to, like, have some official thing that lets you gather funds so that you can use those to help, like, the things that matter instead
yeah,
of, like, trying to fucking get a presidential candidate or some shit like that.
Well,
Like,
see
yeah.
here.
that is the biggest psyop if I ever fucking saw one. Let's get a bunch of localization happy libertarians together and have them spend a shit ton of time, money, and effort on trying to, like, win the nation when they haven't even fucking finished winning their homes yet.
Yeah.
Well,
That's a
see
fucking,
here last year, they like we had a libertarian in the state of Kentucky run against McConnell, and he almost garnered 100,000 votes, which pales in comparison to what you see other people get. However, they claimed that almost less than 10,000 voted for the Jorgensen spike, if I believe that was the last time I checked. There's a gap there, and that didn't make sense to me. But then as soon as this election cycle was over, now if you run as a libertarian, you have to petition the state to even get your name on a ballot. And then on top of that, if you the way that Kentucky runs their primaries, and I'm not sure, I think it's different here than it is in other places. But like during the primary, if I'm a registered libertarian or Green Party or any of the other independent third party, it doesn't matter. I cannot vote in my primaries. So basically, to register as a libertarian or an
and
independent
it's like
or
that
any
in
of
some
that in
states.
this state means that you don't get to vote. They will turn you away. So you only get to vote basically for the presidential election if you don't register Republican or Democrat. And so here the Libertarian Party is becoming more and more irrelevant, and what you have is your Rand Pauls and your Thomas Masseys that are running under an R name just so that they can be elected into a position, because if they don't, they're not going to get any kind of airtime or backing or any of that.
Well, I mean, Rand Paul's kind of a shitty libertarian and nobody claims him, but
He is. But Thomas Massey's not.
I
No.
passed around this meme the other day and it was like when you order Ron Paul on Wish and then underneath it is a picture of Rand Paul.
I love that meme.
But I mean, the redacted caucus could just also, like, on a localization level, like if there were boys or Liberty Movement people who wanted to try and step in and commit praxis via their fucking game, we could support them in local areas. Like, fuck this whole, like, national game crap. We need to really bring it in tight and really tight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we always talk, it starts at home, it starts at home, it starts at home, but there's not enough people starting it at home for it to ever fucking go. Yeah. We've got to start this. And I think this is more of a grassroots type thing. And
that's the entire idea of it.
It's like thing that will fucking work
it's
out.
like it's cool that you like, do I generally tend to have more sympathies towards a Jorgensen Cohen ticket? Sure. But does that if you're voting libertarian to me at this point, you are voting because you believe shit's going to collapse. It's not going. To me, every libertarian vote's pretty boog in nature, right? So as you're even considering casting that vote, and that's if you do vote.
Yeah, we don't. I don't encourage you to vote.
Yeah, I don't either. But as you're doing that, or even not even just voting, interacting with the platform, right? Following Spike on Twitter as he says his stuff, following Jordan or Massey or Amash or any of them. As you're doing that, are you prepared for what that support usually entails, right? Like, or if you're supporting what is basically an entirely corrupt government, an entirely corrupt system, are you prepared for what that entails? Are you prepared for the subversion that that requires? Are you prepared for the ability to live outside of that when you're basically declaring that it's no longer um, it's no its authority or its whatever its validity is no longer legitimate. And a libertarian voter, anything libertarian in nature, no matter how far on the train you are, whether you're in the LP or you're full blown anarchist or anything in between, it is a direct judgment that it's not legitimate. And that's easy to make. That's easy to see. That it's easy to see that with border walls and ICE and with police violence in the police state and the endless wars and the bombings and taxes, and the list goes on and on and on. But as you're making that declaration of denying its legitimacy, are you prepared for what that entails? Because if it's not legitimate and doesn't exist, and if that came to fruition, there is a lot of work that needs to be done between now and then. It's an entirely different world, entirely different existence.
Yeah.
And
if you ask me, it's better.
It's getting the cart ahead of the horse. Like what Laidee was saying, it's like great that you have 20,000 rounds, but are you going to eat that lead, right?
Yeah.
And it's taking that a step farther, as being like, if you're basically casting this complete judgment of condemnation upon the system, are you prepared for what you're going to need to do to reinforce that?
Yeah, and I mean, like, maybe you could trade it, but, like, do you know who to trade it to for what? Do you know, I mean, like, or anything? Do you have relationships with any of these people? Would they trade with you?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's entirely getting the cart ahead of the horse. And that's the other thing where the redacted caucus can come into play. And where I see its beauty at is that you can use these resources for a lot more than just endless campaigns that just usually waste money. Other than getting it, the platform's great, but to me at some point there's a high rate of inefficiency of just completely wasting money because only so much good is going to come from it. Can we use these resources to help educate people, help prepare people, have some sort of mutual aid fund that, like I joke with Mike Bobby about this, I've joked about this with Laidee too, a 3 printer for everybody fund, let's get let's help through some sort of centralization or some sort of collectively coming together. Can we help people completely decentralize their lives? And that's, I guess, the end goal of the redacted revolution is how are we going to completely decentralize our lives outside of the state? Yeah. And that's a tough thing to do, and it's not going to happen overnight. This is, I mean, in the long scheme of things, the complete fruition of this is going to take decades. But there's a starting point that happens.
Unfortunately, I don't think we have that long. We just need to get fucking.
No, I mean, we're talking for no. I mean, maybe after the collapse of. I mean, it's still going to be a process after shit starts. Shit's not going to collapse overnight. Right. And that's the thing. I guess I should bring up that is directly related to a lot of this is we often have this entirely collapsitarian view where this will happen and it will all collapse, right? There will be no more general elections. There will be no more none of it. And that's not going to happen. I mean, whether it be through secession or whether it be through communities coming together and just living off the grid, it's not going to happen overnight. There's going to be a federal government of some sorts for at least a few more decades. It's not just going to go poof, right? There's too much infrastructure. It's too deep. It's too global. And so I guess a better case would be like there's going to be a global power structure that's in place for decades to come. Now, while we may be able to continue to chip away at its legitimacy, like what Assange talks about, like because the mainstream media would be very much a part of this, right? If we're talking about the state as a whole, the power structure, the institutions. He says our generation is burning mainstream media to the ground or something to that effect. Well, that's great, but that's not even happening overnight. Some sort of that old vestige of power will continue to exist and carry on for at least a few more generations. But what are we doing throughout that happens so that our generation is at least starting something that prepares so our future generations, our progeny, are more prepared to deal with that collapse of the state. And there's that meme, it's the Photoshop meme or whatever, the blur thing meme. It's as the state becomes obsolete, it's I'm misquoting it, but as the state becomes more obsolete, it's the ferocity of which it will seek to obtain power will become fiercer and fiercer and absolutely more violent and downright evil, right? As that's the other thing, like we talk a lot about delegitimizing state and living outside of it. We need to also realize is that as we do that, its methods of keeping that power will increase exponentially.
Yeah, and we need to be prepared to be able to keep pushing forward when that shit starts to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, the start of that shit is not going to be, I mean, like, it's already upon us. Look out there. Look outside right now.
Oh, yeah.
You know? And think about all the shit that's fucking going on.
Think about just the past year. Like, we're just now at the year anniversary of 14 days to slow the spread, and look at how much has changed. Like, it's almost unfathomable.
Well, to be honest, it's not just our nation. Like, nations across the world are buckling, and the people are rising up, and the world is on fire, as I like to say.
Yep.
It's already happening.
Yeah.
And we're late to the game as a movement.
Yeah. I think in the way these things work, you're always late to the game, right?
That's true.
It's kind of the name of the game.
That's true.
Nature of it all.
That's fair.
Yeah, but it does feel like
it still feels like we're
playing the catch-up game.
Yeah. Well, it's probably because y'all saw the beginning of this freaking website, web episode, this webisode. Yeah. Well, I think that it's taken a movement like this much longer to form because certain things had to happen before people like us were pushed to each other. I think it's a very intricate thing, and I can go back and like point out all these different things that I think helped, but like it is a sum of its parts, and we didn't come too late, we didn't come too early, but it does goddamn always feel like you're late. Or I mean, like, who the fuck is ever going to be 100% prepared for what's happening right now or what's going to happen in the future? Because it's certainly not getting better.
We weren't raised for that. Like our grandparents, these boomers came out and they had everything. They had the ultimate dream, and they sold their kids this utopian dream. Well, utopia is nowhere, right? Like our parents were born into something that was nowhere, and they thought that they had this great we're gonna this is the next great generation, and we'll be able to pass this on. And it took us, a lot of us in our mid 20s to mid 30s, to realize that we have none of that, right? 2020 showed that perfectly, right? That was the time where everybody realized we have none of what we were told we were being born into, right? We were born in the corpse of a rotting society, with the stench always on our noses, yet told completely otherwise. Being told we're the greatest generation to have ever existed, and given a participation trophy just for showing up, only to sooner or later realize it's our own mortal damnation. And that's something I've said for a while now. That's what I mean when I say it, is like, we're never going to be completely ready. We always kind of knew that we were fucked, but at some point, like, we came into this absolutely at the bottom. Like, at the fucking bottom. And I guess it relates to another thing, at least in my head, that we were talking about with the state becoming, more vicious in its desire to obtain power. Is that's not just physical. That's not just a a not just the physical death aspect of violence, literal violence aspect. That's a psychological violence to that too, right? It's the era of information. It's the constant overflux of content and things that are anesthetic in nature, and it's that constant influx of one thing after another. I mean, 2020 showed that perfectly. And so we get to talking to each other, and it's like, holy shit, it's only been, I remember, I keep saying, like, I posted, it was like 8 months after Kobe died. And I always use that as a parameter because that's basically how we started 2020, right? We started 2020, Kobe dies. And I'm like, hey guys, it's only been 8 months since Kobe died. And people were shocked. People were like, holy shit, so much fucking shit has happened since Kobe died.
It feels like we just lived a decade and a year.
Exactly. And they're making it so we live a decade and a year. So we're tired. So we're exhausted. It breaks people. And not just people in this movie, just people in general. It fucking tears them apart. And so when I say like it's the redacted movement is more than just, guns and memes and, it's still more than preparation, all this shit. It's a movement of mental health. It's a movement of knowing how to live completely red-pilled from society, completely separated from the banality. It's very Fight Club, right? Well, at the end of Fight Club, in the book, he shoots himself in the head. In the both, he basically, kills himself and goes to some sort of afterlife. Okay, that's great, but let's do that without blowing our own brains out.
Let's not do the suicide part.
Basically, that's what this is. Redacted Revolution is basically the Fight Club without killing ourselves because our entire personality split. We didn't know how to exist between them. That's a very real metaphor. Like, if there's anything people should go read and watch right now, it's Fight Club because, he splits. He becomes two entirely different people. And it feels like that. You have to become two entirely different people to exist within the society. And learning how to honestly still do that, bring it together as much as you can, but it's still going to be a thing. Bring that split, be able to still do that without, well, literally in that case, killing yourself. Whether it be literally or figuratively, slowly, death by paper cut. That's what it is. This psychological warfare, it's God damn it, I sound like Alex Jones. It's death by paper cut, but it's death by paper cut of the entire society, right? Because it kills the masses. You don't revolt against the state. You don't do any of this. You don't even deny the state. You just continue to exist in it with your banal IKEA knick-knack fueled existence that isn't going to do anything to threaten the state. Anyway,
I mean, like, to be honest, I agree. That was good. That was excellent. So we've talked about what the shit started as and what we want it, what it kind of is now, and what we'd like it to be. If somebody else wanted to get involved in this kind of thing, how would they do that?
Well, I'm pretty bad about that right now. Should probably start up a Twitter. God damn it, I hate Twitter. But that would make sense. That would be a good start to do the Twitter. And we'll be having the you can reach, I'm out all the platforms, Tommy Payne the 8th or whatever. But probably starting off with a Twitter for it and have people be able to reach out there and see what they can do to help, see what ideas do they have. As we're starting to do these things, right? This isn't just about creating a little community that talks about it. Is what you're doing, can it be a part of all of this? Do you have something to bring to the table? Do you want whatever you're doing? Do you want, let us know. Do we help pitch it? Do we help bring it to other people? Do we help network it to people that can help be involved in it more with their specifications? So reach out to me, reach out to Mike Bobby, and hopefully we can maybe start up an act Twitter and have a little more centralized, landing spot. I
mean, until then, you can probably reach out to basically any of us, and we'll at least talk to you about it a bit.
Yeah, reach out to me.
Get you talking to other people.
I've got, if a direct email might be good, it's Tommy Payne, VIII, Tommy Payne the 8th at Redacted Caucus. Is it .org or .com? Can you remember? Like,
Shit. Hold on. I'll
I'll
tell
just
you the
over
answer to that. Let me
You said
check to make
also-
sure, because I was thinking that earlier and I wanted to say like where they could find the website, and
I just bring
froze.
that up because
I froze.
it's not my personal email, and it's powered by
It's
that email.
newer to me.
Well, that entire email is
.org.
.org.
It's
So
redactedcaucuslp.org.
redactedcaucuslp.org. And
think.
that's a good start. Well, I just
Isn't
bring that
that
one
it?
up because
Yeah.
all my Gmails are not, Proton Mail. They're not secure.
I was gonna say, make a freaking Proton mail.
Yeah.
Please, guys, seriously,
I'll-
stop fucking hitting me up with Yahoo and Gmail emails. It's gross.
Yeah, I need to do that.
But you guys can also go to the redactedcaucuslp.org to like check it out too. Because there's a little website
you can
up
email
and
me
shit.
there too. And I'll get an email together, and we'll share that with I'll get a Twitter page going by the end of the night tonight, and go forward with that. If anybody wants to reach out more, bring what you're doing, because this isn't about like having one organizational goal, right? It's about having a group with a ton of people with their own goals, and having them be able to.
Oh shit!
My phone's yelling at me.
I dropped things. Sorry, y'all.
God damn it, Mike Bobby.
I know.
No, but it's about having, a lot of these things that get set up are oftentimes they're one organization with its one goal, and that's great and all, but this is about just having a group of individuals with their own goals, with their own ideas, with their own pursuits and dreams, being able to sit down and bring those together with each other. And that seemed like, I guess, basically the fairest evolution of the Boog, right? Of the Boogaloo movement, quote unquote. That seems to be the fairest, most honest interpretation of where it was all going.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, MLtP is also always looking for new people, and we're like intrinsically entwined at this point. So like, you can always hit us up too.
Yeah. So
that's always a way to get involved. Just get involved with us and help us do shit. But like, if you have something that would fit elsewhere, definitely still hit people up.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if it's not us, just do it with people you're working with. While I've got you here, I think we're both, about ready to wrap this up. The impetus for a lot of this, Mike Bobby, this is the singing revolution.
Yes. You should tell people about it.
Yes. So I'm going to just pull up. So I'm going to pull this up. I'm just reading it off Wikipedia.
I know we've talked about the singing revolution before, but like we do have newer people watching now, so I'm going to make other people sit through it again.
Yeah. So absolutely. So the singing revolution is a commonly used name for events that led to the restoration of independence of the Baltic states of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania from the Soviet Union at the end of the Cold War. It was coined by an Estonian activist and artist. So, massive demonstrations against the Soviet regime began after widespread liberalization of the regime failed to take into account national sensitivities. It's hoped by Moscow that the non-Russian nations would remain within the USSR, despite the removal of restrictions on freedom of speech and national icons. However, the situation deteriorated to such an extent that by 1989, there were campaigns aimed at freeing the nations from the Soviet Union altogether. A lot of this started from spontaneous, just mass singing. I'll start with one in '88. It's a mass singing demonstration held in Tallinn, which country is that? Estonia. And basically, it's a demonstration. They held it like every 4 years or so. But because of those dynamics that were happening with the Soviet bloc at the time, and there's also an economic aspect of it that there had been this coal mine that was being developed in Estonia, and the Soviet party you cronied and gave all the jobs out to Russians instead of Estonians. And or not just Estonians, but just their elite friends, right? It was very elite versus the people. Well, what the people did is the singing demonstration sparked off what was called the singing revolution. And so they just start having demonstrations, and then we're getting together. I mean, I'm sure there was arms and shit, but a lot of it was just getting together and singing these protest songs. And it was very 1960s-esque in a sense, singing these protest songs, coming together, and every like year or so they just do these like massive human chains, basically like straight up saying like fuck the state, denying the state's authority, we're going to come together. What happened in August of 91, and it spread from Estonia down to Latvia and Lithuania, these three Baltic states. So they got together and they formed a human chain going from one capital to the other, and ended up being, I think it still is, or one of the longest human chains in human history, because it goes from capital of Estonia to capital of Latvia or Lithuania, one of the two, whichever one's on the bottom. And that was basically like, hey, this is us. We're denying the state, and it basically, long story short, worked. It was the freeing impetus for the Baltic states after all this bloodshed that happened in all the other Soviet bloc countries throughout Hungary and Poland, whatever, of trying to overthrow oppressive Soviet rule. They came together and did this. Where it applies to us is we just do that. We do all these demonstrations, we do all these things that and they're great. Like, a lot of these demonstrations can be good and all that, but there's no community aspect to it. So, make it 1960s again. Just show up. Just be there. Just be there to have a good time too, but at the same time denying the authority of the state. And I guess one of our long-term goals would be to have something happen on November 5th. Just show up to your even if it's just your local city council building, if you're out, separated from the states, if it's your local state's capitol building. DC is obviously just a militaristic nightmare. Like, the first idea that had been floated, we had talked about, like, wouldn't it be cool if we got everybody to fill up the DC Beltway Parkway? Well, what happened since January 6th, and also the amount of resources it would take to do that would be fucking obscene.
Yeah, so maybe one day. Hashtag
maybe
goals.
One day. But on a local level, like on November 5th, we just come together, and it's not like, if you want to kid up and, throw on your rifle and all that shit, I can't tell you not to. I probably, well, I won't. I'm a felon. I don't look to go to prison anytime soon. But
I will.
Just come together, and it's not about, whether you kid up or not. It's about bringing people together and showing up and telling them we're not doing this anymore. But not constantly doing it. These demonstrations are great, but at some point they've actually got to mean something. Obviously, we all know the impetus or the gravity behind November 5th, right? Well, we do that for 4 years. It's interesting. Election day of 2024 is November 5th. And I don't know, that's just stuck in my fucking head. And that's where the singing revolution thing really took forward. Like, think about over 4 years. Think about, like, every, as something that every year you have more and more people there for. So in 4 years from now, you're showing up, and it's not even about voting. You're just showing up saying, nope, fuck the voting, fuck all this. We're showing up and we're taking a stand as a people, right? You just get together and play Green Day American Idiot album. Fuck, dude. It doesn't have to be something massively complex.
Bring your phone and a bullhorn.
Yeah, just, like, what I wanted to do, I'd done it a few times down in Salt Lake, because I just went and grabbed my saxophone and just started playing a ton of protest songs. Not my saxophone anymore. I had to sell it, but I was doing that for a spell there. It was fun, like, during the protests and shit. Like, we're not going to overthrow the state with... It's going to be a lot more than just to get the people to do it, to get the soul to do it. It's a lot more than just... Okay. Sorry, dinner's ready, apparently. So I'm going to let you go here in a bit, but it's a lot more than just guns and screaming vitriol at the state. There's a human aspect of it that people have got to come together. Are you basically, if you're not laughing, the enemy's winning, and if you're not singing, the enemy's definitely going to win.
Yeah, and I mean, back on the point of like all this networking and coming together and localizing and preparing and shit, like if we don't do that before, if we don't start that now before everything starts getting fucking crazy, we're all probably gonna just die anyways. Like,
well,
we've
there's
got to
that, and
like
there's
cover
also
all of our aspects, like our actual fucking day-to-day aspects, our fucking social aspects, our fucking mental health. Like, I think that the singing revolution thing actually is pretty good for the mental health, if you ask me.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does a lot to also tell them, like, hey guys, it's time to actually be scared of us. Like, think about if you could do, like, this is the, like, it's not like the Redacted Revolution. There's not like a ton of we'll support protests. We've talked about this a lot. My buddy, we'll support protests. If we can go, we'll go. But there's not really a lot of protests. There's not really, in of itself, isn't going to be, sorry, I'm being yelled at here. I'm apparently the asshole.
You're an asshole, Tommy.
Yeah, even my twin brother says I'm an asshole. So
what are you gonna
do? What am I gonna do? I'm still the oldest. Fuck him. Sorry, you'd have to be a twin to get that joke. Anyway, so we were talking about protests and whatnot, and if there was something we could do, if there's one protest we would do, it would be the November 5th thing. If we could bring people together on November 5th every year going forward, like just having 100 people at each state capital, right? Kind of what J17 was doing before all the fuckery happened. If we just had 100 people in every state capital, that's 5,000 people nationwide. And that would be,
and I mean,
guess,
like, some are gonna start even smaller than that, but
yeah. But just like if we got to the point where it's just 100 people at each state capital, or even just 10 people at every state capital, that's 500 people nationally. But each one of those people, you got to think, represents 10 or 20 more. And it's all exponential. So and it goes back to a lot of this. Every person you talk to involved, every person you involve yourself with in this movement, or going forward with the redacted nature, or going forward with just liberty in general, every person you involve with is 10 or 20 more. 20 more people you're affecting, 20 more people you're helping red pill or bringing to the movement, or radicalize if you want to go that far. And so like sometimes I think people get caught up as like, man, dude, like I just only had X amount, I've only had 6 interactions. Well, each one of those 6 hopefully went and talked to another 6 and another 6 and another 6. Don't beat yourself up over just that one interaction, because you never know what that can do.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of what the Redacted Revolution is too. Like,
you're planting seeds, they don't always grow right away.
No. And so, yeah, that would be, I guess, there's a few specific goals. You have the newsletter we're getting going on, working on funding the movement in of itself. We're working with the Redacted Caucus, kind of bring this into a nutshell. So you got those. A November 5th protest, a Redacted Revolution protest just on November 5th, not anymore, just that one. Just if you're doing another protest, let us know. Throw it into a calendar, make sure that gets out, get that information out there if you're doing any sort of protest around the country. As far as Redacted Revolution, is working on the one protest in November on November 5th. And I guess it's not much of a protest if I say it publicly 8 months ahead of time, but it was just showing up. That would be the one day. I
don't know why that makes it less of a protest.
Oh, maybe more so. I don't know. But I guess while I've still got you on here before I have to bolt, the one last pie in the sky thing. Oh, there, Mike Bobby.
Which thing?
Redacted coin.
Oh, yeah. Like, we want to try to eventually be able to put together and build our own cryptocurrency and create our own economy.
Cryptocurrency
on the blockchain. All sorts of shit. Everything that comes with the idea of the blockchain. That's probably going to be a feat. And if you know how to do anything of that sort, please hit us up.
If you know how to, and funding, and that's the other thing too, is like funding is important. Like, it's a whole thing, but it's not just some, I guess the goal of it, I should say at the end to wrap it all up, is not, the idea isn't just to be some inner chat room, cool moniker name thing. Gone are the days of CNN boys and, second coming of Elmos and, and 50-second penguins brigades.
Yeah, we've got to be building a world beyond it, a society.
Yeah, precisely. A community, not a society. We're having nothing to do with society. We're building a community.
But the building blocks of those community will create a society, like it or not, though. That's natural.
Maybe. A bunch of communities.
Maybe like a non-society. A not society.
Yeah. A non-institutional society.
Something to replace the society that is rotting around us and poisoning everyone who fucking swims in its waters.
Yep. Well, I don't know how much longer you want to go. If you have anything more to add, Laidee.
I think you pretty much covered it. That was really good. You pretty much knew what you were going to say. I'm really proud of you.
Oh, well.
You get a cookie.
Told my mom that.
Yes.
It's a terrible joke. I get a cookie. Geez. I go get dinner.
Gold star cookie, all that stuff.
Yay.
But thank you guys for coming in and talking about the Redacted Revolution and with me and everything like that. I'm really excited about it, and I know that there will be updates to come, and I mean, it's basically a larger scale of what we've always been talking about here on MLtP. So I mean, if you've been here for the long haul, you know that this is a really big deal to us. So stay tuned and start up your fucking plant, start up your seed trays and shit like that, guys. It's time to fucking get serious. It's time to get spicy with our economic endeavors and shit like that. And it's not going to be easy. There are going to have to be sacrifices made for this. Yeah. If you're serious about this shit, you're going to have to do things that don't make sense in our societal day-to-day right now, things that are risky, things that are scary. But as somebody who's been just basically stepping off of every fucking cliff I come to in the past, this shit is not as fucking scary as it seems. Living free and denying the state is addictive. Once you get a little bit of it under your nails, you're never going to be able to fucking stop. You're going to want more and more and more and more of it until you're saturated with it. Until you can't think a different way. It will fucking set you aside from other people. Normies will think you're fucking weird. Your economics are not going to be as hand to mouth as they normally are. You're going to have to think ahead for things like that. You're going to have to rely on people. Unlike what they've taught you, we're going to have to deprogram ourselves and stop fearing each other. It's going to take a lot. It's not going to be a simple thing. And I don't want to discourage anybody. This is some real shit. Expect it to be hard.
Yeah.
But worth it.
That's the goal.
Yeah. Well, that being said, thank you guys for coming on and being here, even though you're hungry and shit like that. I hope that somebody was sparked curious tonight, and if you guys have any questions or comments or anything like that, now we're banned. You use the white supremacist symbol. Just put it down in the comments below or hit us up in our social media. You can find our links for all of our social media and the different places that we air shit at our link tree, which is just linktr.ee/MadLiberTeaParty. And if you guys want to help us out, you can hit up our CoinTree link, which is exactly like the link tree link, but with link instead of with coin instead of link. And that has all the places you can donate to the MLtP and the Mad Liberty Fund, which we do use to help people around the community as best as we can. And the more that we garner, the better. Especially right now, since we're preparing for the Boog mission and the documentary about living on the sea and having, for your living and shit like that. That's going to be hilarious. We're going to make a lot of mistakes and learn from it and try to use it to teach people and stuff like that. Tomorrow night we have Spilling the Liberty Spilling the Liberty like we always do on Mondays. So I hope you guys tune in for that. And I'm going to be working to get some stuff set up this week. So until then, you guys stay safe. You guys stay free. Don't give up your freaking freedom for safety. That's bullshit, and you know it. Fuck the state
Stay
and fuck all
frosty.
those other
Fuck the
things.
state.